Hey, Marlins fans. Welcome to a new episode of Big Fish, Small Pod here on the Fish on First podcast channel, your home for complete Miami Marlins coverage. I am Eli Sussman, settling into this new small pod routine, 15 minutes or less every weekday morning on various Marlins topics. Given the state of the big league team, how well things are going relative to expectations, I think most of the pods for the foreseeable future will focus on what's happening in the majors. But this is kind of a continuation of what I did for most of the 2024 season on Mondays, dedicating those shows to prospects, doing a spotlight on guys from each full season level of the Marlins farm system: low A Jupiter, high A Beloit, double A Pensacola, and triple A Jacksonville. So we'll get into them, guys that for the most part are in the spotlight for positive reasons, but in other cases, it's a bit more complicated than that. But I want you guys to know them a little bit better moving forward, given how they're performing and how they could fit into the Marlins' future plans. This pod presented by About the Fans. Check out aboutthefans.com. They are our merchandise partner. The FOF collection is right there on their site. Hats, shirts, stickers, various other products. Another way to support what we're doing and represent the fish out in the big wide world. Working our way up, we begin with, from low A Jupiter, Liomar Martínez. Name you almost certainly haven't heard before. A right-handed pitcher with the Hammerheads. He has been as effective as any pitcher in the Marlins org to this point in the season. Just a couple starts for Jupiter so far, but he has retired 23 out of 27 batters that he has faced. Signed way back in 2022, more than 3 years ago in international free agency for an $80,000 bonus, relatively modest. That was in one of the biggest international classes in Marlins history. So it was easy for him to get lost in the shuffle. And frankly, he didn't perform exceptionally well in rookie ball the previous couple of years. But he is off to a blazing start here in Jupiter in 2025. There's a lot more up on our site about him. Article from Alex Carver, Mr. Fish on the Farm, diving into Martínez, how they discovered him and the improvements he's made. This is just the cliff notes on that. He has struck out 63% of the batters that he has faced this year so far in that small sample. 63%. And that's compared to 16% for Jupiter last year when he got called up in the middle of the season. He has quadrupled his strikeout rate in that small sample. Will he keep it up? Probably not. But there's reason to believe that this uptick is somewhat legitimate considering the uptick in fastball velocity. Like last year, he was averaging less than 91 miles per hour on his sinker. That's below average even by most standards in pro ball. But now 3 full ticks, he has increased to a 93.7 mile per hour average on that pitch. He also has this great curveball that plays off of it. It's in the mid and high 70s, a huge velo differential. His ability to throw that curveball for strikes will be huge. For him to stick as a starter, there's still a lot of boxes that he needs to check, but he does check some of the boxes as a late bloomer in this organization. A 6'2" right-hander from the Dominican Republic, Liomar Martínez. Keep an eye on him. One of the most intriguing arms in Jupiter to this point in the season, and the performance has been spectacular. For those watching on YouTube, I will just treat you to a couple strikeouts to get a better look at that nasty breaking ball is how he usually finishes off batters, whether it's in the zone or getting chases outside of the zone. Martínez is an early season breakout for this team. Nowhere close to our own top 30 list. And in fact, the 2 next guys I'm going to cover aren't on the top 30 either. So that is what makes this episode a little atypical, is that, we're going with guys that have been under the radar to various extents, but ones that are changing our perception early on here in 2025. With high A Beloit, this is a more familiar name, Yiddy Cape, an infielder who's been with the Marlins ever since 2021. He was the headliner of his international free agent class, a Cuban defector who was cleared to sign in 2021, received $3.5 million, one of the most expensive international free agent signings in Marlins history. Early on, it seemed like he had a chance of living up to the hype. He was their minor league player of the year in 2022. This is now his 3rd year at high A. He has hit a wall in his development at the high A level the past few years. They still had great, illusions of him being a shortstop back in 2023 when he tasted it for the first time. He's been stuck ever since. That first year, huge issues, especially with plate discipline, and also hasn't filled out this lanky frame that the Marlins envisioned that he would at some point over these last few years. Then last year in 2024 goes back to the same level, moves off the shortstop entirely, continues to struggle, slightly better plate discipline, but then he suffers an injury. I think he broke his hand or one of his fingers on a hit by pitch, ends up missing about half of the season because of that. So that was another major setback. So maybe the third time is the charm with the Sky Carp with Cap A. He is hitting 375 early on this year with a 448 on base percentage, 417 slugging. So it's an 865 OPS in the Midwest League, 7 stolen bases in 6 games, including 3 of those on Sunday. That has been a huge plot point to this point in the minor league season. The Marlins stealing more bases than any other minor league system. He's been included in that. So it's intriguing that he's at least piling up a lot of singles and that he's still athletic enough to make a difference on the base paths. This one's more of a curiosity than something that I'm genuinely actually interested in with Cap A, because he isn't playing even every day. I think that speaks volumes about how an organization feels about a players, how often they play. And through 9 games, he has only started 6 of them, splitting time between second base and DH. Yeah. So that is a testament to some of the inconsistencies he's had defensively, where it's good arm strength for a second baseman, especially, but just not ideal awareness or fluidity from Cap A for him to stick at that position. He's going to have to hit very well, and he is through a week and a half, he is hitting very well. We'll monitor this, keep an eye on it. There was really not much way to go but up from where it was the previous couple of years. But yeah, the likelihood of him salvaging his career and becoming any sort of major league contributor, those odds seem to be pretty remote. Still somebody to monitor, keep an eye on down there in Beloit as the season goes on. Yidi Cape, the former big bonus baby. We'll see if he may have actually turned a corner, but just one step at a time considering where he's coming from.
Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
Moving to Double-A Pensacola, a guy that you could make the case should have been on our top 30 list already. Kemp Alderman, the corner outfielder drafted in the second round back in 2023 for a $1.4 million bonus. It's been somewhat of a rocky ride as well. Similar to Cape, he missed a huge chunk of last year due to injury. His, I know, was a hand injury that delayed the start of his season. Performed very well in low A against younger competition, then was pretty mediocre for the rest of the minor league season in Beloit, and then he got a taste of Pensacola at the end. They sent him out to the Arizona Fall League to get some reps, and he was amazing in the Fall League. He was on pace to be the hitter of the year down there. The only thing is that he had already pre-planned his wedding at that time and his subsequent honeymoon. So it was such a small sample in the Fall League, even though he put up Looney Tunes numbers over there, particularly in the power department. So far, that is carried over into 2025. Back at the Double-A level, he is slashing 375, 432, 750. A guy that was OPSing around 750 in his minor league career prior to this, slugging 750 through the first week and a half of the Blue Wahoo season. 3 homers, 11 runs driven in, and 5 stolen bases. He's been overweight for most of his professional career, not as much anymore because he has slimmed down to 235 pounds, if I remember that correctly from in an interview he gave to Baseball America, with the idea of stealing more bases and being more impactful defensively. So far, so good from that standpoint. 5 steals in that very small sample in pretty limited opportunities. This is, keep in mind, the Southern League was very pitcher friendly in 2024, low scoring, and you had to keep that in mind when evaluating Marlins prospects. Too soon to tell exactly how the league is going to play this year, but he does rank second among all players in the league with that 1182 OPS to this point. This is not a league where it's easy to do damage. You remember when Joe Mack had a breakout year in 2024, and that was with an OPS in the high 700s, and that constituted an amazing year. So needless to say, if Alderman is remotely close to this type of player moving forward, he's probably not going to spend the whole year in Double-A. He'll probably get promoted at some point. Still only 22 years old. He was relatively young for a college hitter when he was taken in 2022. The power that he has, especially to the opposite field, how effortlessly he can hit line drives out to right field as a right-handed hitter, is pretty unusual and something that will find him a job in the big leagues at some point in some sort of role if he keeps that up with any semblance of a hit tool. Extremely encouraging start for Kemp Alderman here in 2025. And finally, to the highest level of the organization, AAA Jacksonville, the hottest team in the org as well. They've won 8 in a row as of this recording. Jacob Marcy, who's typically their leadoff hitter, and acquired in the Luis Arias trade just under a year ago. This is now his first full year in the Marlins org. He has a fascinating profile. So I'll give you the slash line first. He's hitting 214, 421, 357. That's an on-base percentage that has practically doubled his batting average. Just 1 home run in 14 games, but 13 stolen bases. That leads all of minor league baseball by a healthy margin. He was finally caught stealing for the first time on Sunday. 13 out of 14 on steals for Jacob Marcy. It was already known that he had plus speed as a player, but not and he's had efficiency in previous levels of the organization in terms of his success rate. It's just that this volume is naturally hard to anticipate coming, and he has been fearless on the bases to this point. He's been getting on base in the first place. What has really helped his profile in the past is that he has the willingness to draw walks and know the zone. As somebody that has a relatively small strike zone, he leverages that to get on base. And it is leading to it's making him very valuable to the team to this point, as somebody that also has the ability to play center field, all 3 outfield spots really. But aside from kind of a middling arm strength, he is a good defender out there as well. He tasted AAA last year, so his proximity to the big leagues is pretty close. How he's going to translate there is another fascinating matter altogether. We have these great sliders, StatCast sliders, courtesy of TJ Stats, that you can see on the YouTube stream of this, where he is top of the scale in terms of his discipline, 99th percentile in chase rate for having one of the lowest chase rates at the AAA level, and understandably drawing a ton of walks. The thing is that he doesn't hit the ball hard whatsoever. A hard hit rate under 20% so far this season. That is really lower than you'll ever see across Major League Baseball for players that are at that level. And I mentioned the slash line, where he's not getting very many hits, and he wasn't at all last year either. He had an even 200 last year across AA and AAA. You may have probably already assumed this, but it is almost universally true that batting averages drop when guys go from the minors to the majors, even though it's not such a end-all be-all stat that it used to be considered. Like, there is a threshold in order for somebody to be playable even on a part-time basis in the big leagues. And for a guy that, dating back to the start of last season, is hitting 201, 2024 to 2025 combined, like, that's concerning in terms of how that would translate to the big leagues. Even as somebody that is a great base runner and an above average defender, that might not be enough to carry the profile if he's simply not getting hits. He does put balls in the air, and he does make a good amount of contact as well. That's the weird thing about it, is he's above average at contact, and he's kind of usually saying about the right trajectory. It's just he's not generating enough power with those swings in order to find holes in the defense. Really interesting player, all things considered, and one that I still have some hope for. As a 23-year-old, he could get better and make certain adjustments. He has been a good hitter for average in the past. For the time being, it's just hard to think of very many players with his profile that end up having a role in the big leagues. So we're going to continue to monitor him. Obviously, this is a platform year for him. Rule 5 draft eligible at the end of the year, so he is fighting for a 40-man roster spot at the very least, if not a call-up at some point later this summer. The guys we've covered on here: Liomar, Martínez from Jupiter, Yidi Cape from Beloit, Kemp Alderman from Pensacola, and Jacob Marcy from Jacksonville. The first of many prospect spotlight small pods here in 2025 with myself, Eli Sussman. So thanks a lot for tuning into this one, a new small pod coming up tomorrow. focusing on the big league team. We hope you tune in for that. Subscribe to Fish on First wherever you get your podcasts. And we appreciate all of you guys supporting what we do, covering the Miami Marlins here at FOF. Enjoy your Marlins off day. As always, go Fish.